In today's modern society, where materialism and the pursuit of material pleasures have become central to life, it is easy to get caught up in the cycle of greed and the endless search for satisfaction of desires. However, one of the philosophies that brings lasting peace, happiness, and true freedom is living simply and without greed. This does not mean abandoning all comforts, but rather learning to reassess the true values in life, knowing when to stop, and being content with what we have. One of the ancient philosophies that can help us pursue this path is Stoic thinking. Stoicism, with core values such as self-control, patience, and being content with what we have, has been widely applied and proven to be incredibly effective in helping people live a peaceful, free life, unscathed by illusions and material desires. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Stoic Lessons channel. This is a place where we explore profound life philosophies and valuable lessons to grow personally. Through these videos, you will find inspiring stories, essential skills to face challenges, and mindsets that help you live a meaningful life. In this video, we will explore the topic of learning how to live simply and without greed. Let us embark on a journey of self-discovery and make positive changes in life. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on the latest knowledge. And now, let's begin. Stoicism is an ancient Greek school of philosophy, with founders such as Zeno, Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, focusing on self-control, self-mastery, and living contentedly with less. This philosophy is not just about minimizing material things but also about a deep awareness of the nature of life, human beings, and the universe. According to Stoic philosophers, happiness does not come from owning more and more, but from freeing ourselves from things we do not need. They believe that human suffering does not stem from external circumstances but from our reactions to those circumstances. By learning how to control and adjust our minds, we can live a peaceful and free life, unaffected by unnecessary passions and ambitions. Stoic thinking teaches us how to live simply by minimizing unnecessary needs, focusing on true values, and letting go of material desires. This simplicity is not about living in poverty or deprivation but making a conscious choice not to be carried away by things that do not bring lasting happiness. Greed, freeing yourself from the feeling of scarcity. Greed is one of the greatest causes of unhappiness in life. When we are always looking for more and more, we never feel content. We live in a world full of comparison, where everyone around us seems to have more than we do. However, in Stoic thinking, what matters is not what others have, but our ability to control and be happy with what we possess. Epictetus, one of the famous Stoic philosophers, once said, "It is not what you have that makes you happy, but how you perceive it." Indeed, greed only makes us feel deprived, even when we may own a lot. Greed makes the mind restless and never satisfied, which only increases tension and suffering. Stoicism helps us recognize that everything we have is temporary, and nothing in this life is permanent. Letting go of greed does not mean abandoning everything we love, but learning not to let material things control our emotions and inner peace. Living without greed means living with awareness and feeling content with what we have, while developing the soul, intellect, and character. Self-control and patience, the two keys to living simply. One of the important qualities in Stoic thinking is self-control. Self-control is not about repressing all desires but about the ability to control what we can and let go of things beyond our control. Self-control is the greatest strength we can have because it allows us to adjust our thoughts and actions rather than letting circumstances or emotions dictate them. In life, we often face temptations and unnecessary demands from society or people around us. However, learning how to reject these temptations and not participate in materialistic races is an art we must practice every day. Patience, in Stoic philosophy, also plays an important role in helping us avoid rushing for instant gratification but learning to wait and persist toward long-term goals. Living simply does not mean rejecting dreams or life goals but means knowing how to remain calm and composed in the face of challenges. It is the ability to master oneself and not let external factors control our emotions and actions. Patience and letting go of unnecessary things helps us focus on what is truly important and brings lasting value to our lives. Stoic philosophy on relationships and communication. An important aspect of living simply and without greed is how we view relationships. According to Stoic philosophy, relationships are not meant to satisfy material or temporary emotional needs, but to build deep and lasting connections. When we don't expect too much from others and avoid letting greed influence our relationships, we find that simplicity and sincerity are the keys to good relationships. Seneca, a famous Stoic philosopher, once said, "We cannot have many friends, but we can have sincere friends." Maintaining simple relationships, free from exploitation or greed, creates an environment where both parties feel genuinely respected and loved. True freedom. Living simply and without greed brings true freedom. This freedom is not about material possessions, but inner freedom. When we are no longer influenced by material desires and no longer worry about acquiring more, we feel freer than ever. This freedom allows us to live a peaceful life, unburdened by the weight of ambition and desire. Stoic philosophy is not a harsh or unrealistic way of life. On the contrary, it serves as a reminder to seek inner peace, rather than chase external factors. When we let go of boundless ambition and learn to live simply, we discover a fuller and more meaningful life, where we can focus on spiritual values and character rather than material possessions. Facing challenges, asceticism and learning to accept pain. In life, suffering is inevitable. Everyone faces hardships, challenges, and difficult moments. However, in Stoic philosophy, we learn to face suffering not by avoiding or complaining about it, but by accepting it and learning to master it. Seneca said, "It's not what happens that causes you pain, but how you react to it." In fact, difficulties and suffering are not always bad things but opportunities for growth and learning. Stoicism teaches us that asceticism, living without excessive indulgence, not letting material or emotional pain control us, is an essential part of life. Difficult times are opportunities to develop patience and self-control, and they are moments to maintain calm and not fall into negative emotions. Accepting pain does not mean we surrender or endure passively, but rather learning to embrace every challenge as part of the process of development. By practicing Stoic philosophy, we can face pain and difficulties with clear sight and not let them dominate our lives. This helps us maintain peace of mind while awakening our inner strength to overcome challenges. Living altruistically, caring for and helping others. An important part of living simply and without greed is altruism, caring for and helping others without expecting anything in return. In Stoic philosophy, altruism is not an arbitrary act but a natural quality, a part of human nature. Developed through practical actions, helping others not only makes the world around us better, but also brings peace and happiness to ourselves. Although in modern society, people often focus on personal gain, Stoic thought points out that true happiness is not the satisfaction of one's own desires, but contributing to the community and society. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once reminded us, people are not born to live for themselves, but to serve the common good. Helping others not only enriches our own lives but also creates a spiritual bond between people. Altruism can be as simple as a small gesture, like helping a friend in need, listening to someone's worries, or participating in community activities. What matters is that we do not expect repayment from others but act out of love and genuine concern. When we live for the benefit of others without letting greed take over, we not only help others but also bring fulfillment and peace to our own hearts. Inner peace, a life free from complexity. One of the core values of Stoic philosophy is inner peace. This means learning to live a life without complexity, unaffected by external factors, and focusing only on the stillness of the soul. Inner peace comes from living simply, knowing when to stop, and not letting unimportant matters distract us from our goals and happiness. Stoicism encourages us to master our emotions, not allowing external fluctuations to alter our mental state. This does not mean we must become indifferent or lacking in emotion, but it is the ability to not let emotions excessively influence our decisions and actions. When we live simply and without greed, we can focus on core values in life, such as sincerity, love, and personal development. By applying Stoic philosophy, we can create a peaceful space in our minds, where all thoughts are directed towards calmness, patience, and self-control. There is no more tension, anxiety, or competition. We will learn to live with what we have and find joy in each moment. Aspiration to rise, setting goals but not getting attached to them. Part of living simply and without greed is the ability to set goals in life while not becoming overly attached to these goals. Stoicism teaches us that goals are necessary, but we should not place all our happiness and success on external outcomes. What matters is the journey and how we grow along the way. This means we need to learn to accept failure, learn from each step, and most importantly, not let failure or success control our emotions. Goals may change, but personal growth is enduring. When we live simply and without greed, we realize that achieving goals is only temporary, and lasting peace comes from living rightly and developing ourselves each day. Spiritual growth, learning to manage the mind and inner conflicts. An important factor in living simply and without greed is the ability to control the mind and inner conflicts. Modern life often makes us feel caught up in the needs, desires, and demands of society. However, Stoic philosophy encourages us to develop self-awareness and learn how to manage inner conflicts. This not only helps reduce stress but also helps us live a simple life, free from unnecessary emotions or desires. In life, we constantly face conflicts between reason and emotion, between desires and ethical principles. Stoicism is not only about renouncing material things, but also about learning to manage emotions and thoughts so they don't dominate our lives. When we learn to identify and control inner conflicts, we can face life's challenges calmly and wisely. We also learn that spiritual growth does not come from continuously seeking perfection or controlling everything, but from the ability to accept our own flaws and mistakes. When we face inner conflicts, Stoicism teaches us not to avoid or deny them, but to accept them, learn from them, and move forward. This process helps us develop spiritual maturity and find peace within ourselves. Self-reliance, independent thinking and proactive life management. One of the most important lessons from Stoic philosophy is self-reliance and independent thinking. By living simply and without greed, we not only give up material possessions but also learn to live autonomously, without relying on anyone or anything external to find happiness. Stoicism emphasizes that we must take responsibility for our own lives and not blame factors outside of our control. Self-reliance in Stoic philosophy does not mean living alone and rejecting support from others, rather, it is the ability to make decisions independently and live according to the principles we believe in. When we are not dependent on societal acceptance or judgments, we can live freely, without worrying about maintaining an image or meeting societal standards that are not truly important to us. Independent thinking helps us clearly define our goals in life and our direction. It also prevents us from getting caught up in negative trends or being influenced by the ideas or beliefs of others. When we live simply and independently, we can create a meaningful and free life, not because society demands it, but because we have chosen a path that aligns with our values. Seeking meaning in life, developing deep understanding of oneself and the universe. Stoic philosophy not only teaches us how to live simply and without greed, but also encourages us to search for deeper meaning in life. A truly simple life can only be fulfilling when we understand ourselves and our place in the vast universe. Seeking a profound understanding of ourselves, life, and what we can contribute to the world is a crucial journey in living a meaningful life. Stoicism advises us to question ourselves about the purpose of life and the values we pursue. This not only helps us live a fuller life but also helps us overcome the challenges we face. A deep understanding of ourselves allows us to know who we are and what we truly need in life. When we realize that we can only change ourselves and how we respond to the world, we will feel freer and more at peace in every situation. The journey to finding meaning in life is not a short-term process but a lifelong one. Every day, we can ask ourselves important questions, explore and experiment with new ideas, and live with gratitude for what we have. A simple life will not only help us eliminate the frustrations caused by greed but also help us find peace through understanding the world and ourselves. True freedom, living according to eternal principles. Living simply and without greed gives us a precious gift, freedom. This is not freedom in chasing material desires, but freedom in living according to eternal principles and being true to ourselves. When we learn to let go of unnecessary things and live a simple life, we not only reduce the burdens in life but also create a vast space for spiritual freedom. Freedom is not about living without limitations, but about living according to principles that we believe in and not being dependent on external factors. When we live simply, we realize that the most important things in life are not material possessions or fame, but inner peace, genuine relationships with those around us, and personal development. Stoicism teaches us that true freedom comes when we learn to live true to ourselves, not getting swept up in external temptations and not relying on things beyond our control. At that point, we will live a meaningful and free life, not bound by ambition, anxiety, or material competition. Inner peace, achieving harmony through acceptance. One of the core values in Stoic philosophy is the ability to achieve inner peace by accepting what cannot be changed. Life is always full of surprises and challenges that we cannot control, from unexpected changes in work and relationships to difficult personal situations. However, Stoicism teaches us that not everything needs to be changed or controlled. Instead, we can learn to accept the things that cannot be changed and find peace in that acceptance. When we live a simple life, we recognize that many things in life are beyond our control, from the changing weather to the actions of others. However, we can control how we respond to these things. By practicing acceptance and recognizing that not everything will go as we wish, we can find peace even in difficult times. Acceptance does not mean that we surrender to difficulties, but rather that we acknowledge that we cannot change everything and do not need to change everything to find peace. By living simply, we are no longer caught up in desires and insatiable cravings, but instead, we find contentment in what we already have. This creates a profound peace in the mind, where we can live happily without needing to own or control anything. Liberation from the burden of power and materialism. One of the reasons we often get caught up in greed is the allure of power and material wealth. In modern society, power and material possessions are often seen as measures of success and happiness. However, Stoic philosophy teaches us that these things do not bring lasting happiness. On the contrary, they can be sources of stress, anxiety, and loss. By letting go of greed, we can free ourselves from the bondage of power and materialism. When we live simply and without greed, we no longer seek satisfaction from external possessions like money, fame, or power. Instead, we learn to find joy and contentment from internal values like love, understanding, kindness, and contribution to the community. Power and material wealth may bring temporary comfort, but they cannot provide true peace. By letting go of unnecessary material pursuits and seeking satisfaction from deeper values, we can alleviate the burdens and stresses of life. Stoicism encourages us to live free from the influence of materialism and power, and find happiness within ourselves. This does not mean that we must give up everything we have, but rather that we learn to live in a way that is not controlled by these external factors. Love and relationships, living sincerely and reducing dependency. Relationships and love in our lives are often crucial elements, but they can also become sources of anxiety if we do not know how to live simply and without greed. We often seek love and acceptance from others, but Stoicism teaches us that true happiness comes from within, not from depending on others. Living simply in relationships does not mean giving up love or care for others, it means learning to love freely and sincerely without relying on the desires or expectations of others. When we live simply and without greed in relationships, we can build connections based on respect, gratitude, and genuine sharing, rather than expectations or dependence on each other to fulfill personal needs. Love and connection with others can be a great source of motivation in life, but they only become truly deep and fulfilling when we do not rely on them to find completeness or self-worth. We can love others and be loved without sacrificing our freedom and independence. Relationships are about sharing and bonding, not possession or ownership. Letting go of unrealistic expectations about life. Another important element in living simply and without greed is letting go of unrealistic expectations about life. We often create high expectations about how our lives will unfold, the achievements we want to attain, and what we think we deserve. However, these expectations sometimes lead to disappointment and dissatisfaction when reality does not meet them. Stoicism encourages us to let go of excessive expectations and instead live with acceptance and gratitude for what we have. The reality of life doesn't always go according to plan, but we can learn to face every situation calmly and wisely. When we reduce our expectations and live with what we have, we can find contentment and happiness in the simplest things. Letting go of expectations doesn't mean giving up on dreams or goals, but learning to live flexibly and remain open to the opportunities and changes life brings. When we no longer have overly high expectations of life, we feel freer and are not disappointed when things do not unfold as we expected. Simplicity helps focus on what matters most. One of the key benefits of living simply is the ability to focus on the things that truly matter in life. When we live with fewer material possessions and less complexity, we can direct all our attention and energy toward larger and more meaningful goals. For those who practice Stoic thinking, focusing on the essentials helps us become wiser in our decisions and actions. Living simply helps us eliminate distractions, allowing us to focus on personal development, relationships, and meaningful objectives. We don't need to spend too much time worrying about things beyond our control or unnecessary desires. By reducing greed and material wants, we can focus on core values like kindness, patience, and the ability to help others. This also helps create a peaceful mental space where we can think more clearly, make better decisions, and act with purpose. Living simply allows us to understand ourselves better and recognize what truly brings joy and satisfaction in life, instead of getting caught up in material temptations or endless desires. The cost of greed: creating unnecessary burdens for ourselves. When we let greed dominate, we unintentionally create unnecessary burdens for ourselves. Greed makes us constantly want more, seek to achieve even greater things, and thus, we live in a state of stress and never feel satisfied. We may achieve external successes, but if greed continues to control us, we will never find true contentment. Stoicism teaches that living with greed only creates fatigue and stress. Each time we achieve a goal, we desire another goal. Every time we possess something, we want more. This constant striving makes us chase after things that never bring lasting satisfaction. In reality, greed only wears us out mentally and physically because we never stop to enjoy what we already have. On the other hand, when we live simply and without greed, we free ourselves from these burdens. We learn to appreciate what we already have and feel satisfaction from simple things, creating a lighter and more peaceful life. Simplicity not only helps us avoid material burdens but also preserves our mental health, reducing stress and anxiety. Simplicity is the key to lasting happiness. Finally, living simply and without greed is the key to achieving a happy and sustainable life. Stoicism is not just a philosophy that helps us attain mental peace but also a way of life that leads to lasting happiness. In reality, happiness is not a destination, it is a state of the soul, and it comes when we live authentically, without being swept up in material desires or unrealistic expectations. When we let go of material temptations and live simply, we find joy in the simplest things. We don't need to possess everything to feel happy. Instead, we learn to live with gratitude and cherish what we have. In this way, we build a life that is not only full materially but also rich spiritually. Living simply helps us reconnect with ourselves, with our core values, and with meaningful relationships. It helps us realize that true happiness comes from accepting what we have, rather than constantly dreaming of what we don't have. And when we can find happiness in simple things, our lives become more meaningful and sustainable. Conclusion. Learning to live simply and without greed through Stoic thinking is not an easy process. It requires us to change our perspectives on life and the values we hold dear. However, it is also an incredibly worthwhile journey. When we let go of unrealistic expectations, abandon greed, and live with gratitude, we will find peace, happiness, and profound meaning in life. Simplicity is not just about living with fewer material possessions, it is about living with less complexity and less reliance on external factors. It helps us rediscover the deeper values of life, leading us to live a fuller and more meaningful life. Stoicism not only helps us find tranquility in our hearts but also guides us to live a life of freedom, unencumbered by greed or unnecessary expectations. Ultimately, when we learn to live simply and without greed, we will experience a profound transformation in how we live, work, and love. Our lives will become lighter, more peaceful, and filled with joy. Wishing you continued success and happiness on your journey.